on your body. So there's that. But let's talk about this muscle response for just a moment, and this is really important, and this is what I'd like to communicate more than anything else. This thing you did where you really hit that muscle hard, you created inflammation. But there are two main kinds of inflammation. You have acute inflammation. That's something like muscle building, ACUTE, and you have chronic. Now, these are not the same thing, and the distinction needs to be clear. Sorry about my penmanship. No one's ever said it's tremendously legible, but for this exercise, I hope you can get what I'm going for here. What's more acute inflammation? Well, a bee sting, or you twist your ankle, all of a sudden there's some swelling. That is something that your body takes care of right away. And if you can think about it like this, like a polygraph test, you're going right along, and then you tell a big whopper, and this thing starts going like this. Well, then your body eventually takes care of it, and you're back here again. It's kind of like if there are 30 people in a room and someone spills a bucket of water, between 30 people, they quickly clean it up, and then they're back kicking with their heels back again. And it's like nothing happened. That's acute inflammation. Chronic inflammation is more like this. It just keeps, there is no horizontal part to that. It just keeps going. Chronic inflammation isn't always preceded. You might think that this is a precursor to that it would be given as granted that if you had that, you must have started with that. That's not the case. Chronic inflammation comes from sleep deprivation or different diseases, certainly. Perhaps an infection, something like that, where your body has to deal with something and it can't get to the source, it just stays inflamed. It's trying to fight it. So think of it like this: those 30 people who cleaned up that bucket of water in no time, now that water, instead of one bucket fixed, it's gone. Now the water's coming out of the walls, and it's coming out of the windows, and they can't keep up with it. All 30 people are going and going and going, and those people who are having a hard time getting that water out of there, the last thing they want is for someone else to put something on top of the pile and say, I need you to do that too. They'd say, I'm busy. I can't do that effectively. I've got a job. I'm trying to keep up with this water. Well, that's what happens when you are in a state of chronic inflammation. Why is this important? Because obesity puts you in a state of chronic inflammation. You're not fat because you're inflamed because you have too much fat. And your body is trying to do something about it, but it can't. And so it's staying in this inflammation period, this period of chronic inflammation, and it can't do anything for it. But the problem is, just like those 30 people who couldn't keep up with the water, it can't, in the middle of all that chronic inflammation when you're heavy, do much about anything else. It would like to. And so the way that relates to weight training is, remember, as I say, when you're hitting that muscle hard, you create this acute inflammation. Well, if your body's already in this state because you have so much more weight that you're carrying around, you're in a state of chronic inflammation, lay that on top of that, and it's just like throwing that extra stack of papers on these people's plate who can't keep up with their job already. This is not going to get the muscle building response that it would get if you didn't have the extra weight on. In other words, you're already in a state of inflammation and it's got too much to deal with. And what happens is you're sore longer than the average person. It takes longer to repair it. And then when it does repair it, it doesn't build back as thick and as strong as if you weren't carrying around the weight. So at first glance, someone might say, well, okay, so heavy people shouldn't lift weights. That's not the case. You should lift weights for a different purpose. Weightlifting is wonderful, and there are lots of different kinds. But whereas someone who's trying to build and sculpt their muscles with a bench press or with that arm curl, the example that I gave you a moment ago, you might want to do it more with higher reps and do more Olympic lifting. Like I have a barbell here, like power cleans. I got my chest up high. That is a power clean. Now, when I'm done with that, if I do 20 of those, I am going. My breath will be coming in short gasps, but there's not going to be a muscle that is particularly burnt out. In other words, I'm not trying to hit a muscle and create that. I am just going for the cardiovascular benefits, and that's the kind of weight training someone who has a lot of weight to lose should go for. And then when the weight comes off, that's when you go into here and you say, okay, I'm going to get a real muscular response from this muscular hypertrophy, meaning I just burn the muscle out, and now I can expect some real results as a result of my weight training. So, watch your diet. and anybody who has a lot of weight to lose is not going to be able to do it without changing the diet for sure. Use weight training then as a means of cardiovascular training. Stay in motion, work on your endurance. That'll increase the amount that you can do, and then work toward being able to sculpt yourself, being able to actually pack on muscle once you lose the weight. I hope that helps you. Those are the ins and outs of weight training as it relates to weight loss and this sort of thing. I hope it helps. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you very much. See you later.